Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back. This is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show. And I'm the NFL genius on draft day. And to my right, the man that always know better, it's Mo Better, NBA 24/7, 365. Good morning, Mo.
Hey, good morning, Gene. Good morning, everybody out there joining us. Let's get into it.
Man, look, we got the NFL draft tonight. And I would love, this is like shock and awe. I guess a month ago, a lot of people would have Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, which is the first three picks. And then the Giants started balking on Shedeur. People normally trade up to get the quarterback that they want. Right. Quarterbacks are normally taken in the first 3 or 4 picks or down the road, second, third round. There's not a lot of quarterbacks that get taken from the 15th pick to the 32nd pick. It just doesn't happen very often. Notable ones, Kenny Pickett didn't work out very well for Pittsburgh. Dan Marino worked out really well for Miami. Another notable one that fell was Aaron Rodgers, and his crazy ass was on the Pat McAfee show talking about his interactions with the Jets, but we'll get into that another time. The question I have to ask you is the over-under of where Shedeur Sanders was to be drafted a week ago was at 8.5. 8.5. That means would he be taken before the 9th pick or after the 9th pick? Just recently, it switched to 21.5. Now, the Steelers picked 21. I think it's interesting that they put it at 21.5. Where do you think Shedeur Sanders goes? And are you buying in? And this is one thing I'll never like. Are you buying into the anonymous reports, the anonymous coaches? At least the Saints. I'll give the Saints all the credit in the world. They're like, we don't want him. Just tell you right now. Didn't like his body language. Didn't like the way he handled himself. Shedeur might have been like, I don't want to go there. So it doesn't matter how that interview goes.
Right.
But where do you think Shedeur Sanders falls? And what do you make of the media hype around what's going on with Shedeur?
I feel like the media hype has made or broke him to a degree with his draft value. To me, I think he should go in the top 10. That's what I believe. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's going to have a fine career. I don't want to go overboard and say he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, but do I think he could be the starting quarterback on a team that could go on long playoff drives or runs and be the head of that snake? Yes. He's played in a pro-like offense. This kid has a super high football IQ. He eats up the game. I would call him a gym rat. I guess, yes, he doesn't have a super strong arm, but do you know how many great Hall of Famers didn't have super strong arms, but they knew how to fling the football and put it in tight windows? It's weird to me that people look at him and go, well, I don't know. Now he looks like a project. He's not a project. He's not a project. If you want to make a case that there are other quarterbacks who might have a higher ceiling because they're freakish athletes, I can't argue with that. But just because you have a high ceiling, it doesn't mean you ever reach it. It doesn't. Anthony Richardson was a freakish athlete. I think you and I both agree, we don't think he's ever going to be a great quarterback.
I think the question, and I agree with you, I remember on draft night, and I'll tell you right now, I told everybody, anybody that would listen to me, I said, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson stink. And you know what the best part about being on a podcast for as long as I've been on a podcast? I could live to see the beginning and end of Anthony Richardson's career as a podcaster. They stink, both of them. I said Anthony Richardson is a developmental project. If he falls into the right system, he could eventually become something. It's pretty spot on. I said Will Levis's decision-making is pure awful, and he couldn't start over Sean Clifford at Penn State, and people thought this was not a problem. Sean Clifford was a trash quarterback at Penn State. He couldn't start over him. So people fall in love with certain things, and quarterbacks rise and fall. I remember the fall of Geno Smith, the fall of Justin Fields. Even though Justin only fell to 10, he was projected 2, and then he fell past 3, and there was a lot of quarterbacks that were taken in that draft. I think it's interesting to see what happens with Shedeur Sanders tonight. I will set the over-under tonight, and we'll do it on the draft cast, at 2.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. Would you go over or under 2.5 quarterbacks?
I think I would go under. I
Okay.
think I would go under. I will say this. You brought up an interesting point about if Shador were to, they had him at 21 and a half. I feel like Pittsburgh needs a quarterback. If they're fortunate enough to be in that range, I think even if you move up a little bit, I'm going to get him. That's their quarterback for the next decade or more. And I don't know why I wouldn't hesitate to do that. I would be aggressive if I have an opportunity to pursue Shador Sanders. And look, if he falls, and nobody wants to fall that far when you're touted the way he's been touted, but like you said, Rodgers fell and things worked out great for him. If Shador falls and he ends up a Steeler, I think he's actually getting a better deal by ending up being on the Steelers and working with Mike Tomlin. Great for Shador. So I'm hoping that happens for him.
The problem with that, though, and this is where I'll land, is how long does he have with Mike Tomlin? Because you've already seen the people at the doors chomping at the bit to little Kyle Edwards reference to get him out of Pittsburgh. How much time do you think he would have to develop Shador Sanders? I don't know. But I will read this. NFL coach rips Shador Sanders in anonymous pre-draft take. He's so entitled. So this was the part where I kind of wanted to get. The coach recently told NFL Network that Sanders was the worst formal interview I've ever been in my life. He's so entitled. He takes unnecessary sacks. He never plays on time. He has horrible body language. He blames teammates. But the biggest thing is he's not that good. Another longtime AFC executive echoed that sentiment, telling the outlet it didn't go great in our interview. He wants to dictate what he's going to do and what's best for him. He makes you feel small. I hear a little bit of, what's the right way to put this? I hate the anonymous reports. At least the former long-term AFC executive, that NFL Network knew who they were talking about there. It was a specific person. But I feel like that more kids should dictate or should hear the way the offense is. So we talk about this all the time, and maybe I'm on the wrong end of the stick, and maybe he needs to be a little bit more humble in these interviews. However, look at Justin Fields. Look at the situation he was drafted in. Look at the situation he was traded in. People are already talking about him being a bust, this being a stopgap for the New York Jets, when in reality, this is the first time since Ohio State where Justin's been able to make a decision about his future. You can run a blue chip town out of the NFL by putting them in a Chicago or a Carolina. All they do is ruin quarterbacks. That's it. They take a quarterback and they ruin them. And this is not, you look at the franchise of the Chicago Bears, and hopefully Caleb Williams fixes this trend. But who's the greatest quarterback in Bears history? This is an insane thought process. Who is the greatest quarterback in Bears history? Stats tell you is Jay Cutler.
I knew I was going to say Cutler. He was, by the numbers, sure.
I don't know, just it's embarrassing. And so, what's your take on the Shador Sanders, like the anonymous GM and then the long-term GM and their comments about him?
I think maybe he is coming into some of those interviews, maybe being a little arrogant, but at the same time, I think that Shador is being very strategic. There are some of these places he doesn't want to go. Yeah. I'm sure he and his fathers had these conversations and said, maybe we want to go in there and be a little over the top. So they'll be like, we don't want this guy here. Like on purpose. Look, where you're drafted, what situation you're drafted into can determine where your career goes. Literally, if you go to a bad culture, bad management, bad ownership, the future's not bright for you. I think Shador, along with his father, are being very strategic. I don't want to use the word they're tanking the interviews, but I think they're going in there with a certain mentality of where I want to be and where I don't want to be. I think that anybody that doesn't now, there's probably some smart GMs that realize that's exactly what he's doing. There's somebody out there that loves Shador Sanders. There is. And to your point about Mike Tomlin, you're right. The Warriors are already at the gate. They're circling and they're talking about if Mike Tomlin has another mediocre season, they want him gone. Yeah, I get it. So if you bring in a young quarterback, is Mike Tomlin going to get 2 or 3 years to benefit from what he's going to be down the road? Honestly, I don't know. I don't know because I feel like Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin, they're closer to an ending than they are continuing their relationship.
That's the way I feel the same way. It'll be interesting to see, but we'll get our live reactions. I will say this: last year, Michael Penix Jr. going to the Atlanta Falcons, I think it was 8 or 9.
I know you hated that. You hated that.
Oh my God, man! The reactions we got though live, it was awesome. So
the funny part was I wasn't on with you guys, but I wish I were on, because when I saw him get drafted, I was like, good for Penix. I loved it. I think Michael Penix is going to be a good quarterback. I think he's going to be a good quarterback. I know people are like, well, they already got Kirk Cousins. But in my head, I was thinking like, yeah, it's Kirk Cousins. That's why I think Penix is going to be fine.
Yeah, but Mo, here's the point, and I follow what you're saying. Like, in hindsight, the Michael Penix Jr. pick, like, if you knew the Kirk Cousins move was a mistake, the Michael Penix Jr. pick is a good pick. But let's pause for a minute. How did they know that Kirk Cousins move was a mistake? They just paid him over 100, like they guaranteed him $100 million like 3 weeks prior to the draft. It wasn't like you seen Kirk Cousins and you were like, oh, wait, we might have made a mistake. Let's get out of this mistake while we can. You talked him in free agency. You offered him the contract. He signed with you and he didn't play a football game. So, like, if the argument is, well, it's Kirk Cousins, we need to have a backup plan, then why sign him to a $180 million contract? Like, why give him $100 million guaranteed?
Right. Look, front offices make dumb decisions all the time. I think Atlanta at the time was in love with Kirk Cousins. I'm only speaking from what I saw and how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt them drafting Michael Penix was smart, even though they had already given him $100 million guaranteed. I didn't look at Kirk Cousins as the Falcons quarterback of the future, like the Falcons did. They've made some dumb choices. You could argue that the guy they have at head coach is not the right choice. But I do think the Penix draft was a good move. I know a lot of people hated it because they're like, well, he just got Cousins. Why would you draft this kid this high? I totally understand that. And it's funny because it kind of goes back to the earlier topic. They drafted Kirk Cousins, but they loved Michael Penix. Somebody's going to love Shedeur Sanders. That's all I'm saying. I get it. It's weird, but I'll just point out the Falcons front office, and maybe them, the coach and the GM, everybody's not on the same page. But at the time, like I said, when in the moment, I was like, good looking out. I like Penix. I think Penix is going to be a fine quarterback.
So once again, and this is where me, you, and Cottrell, like you're on his side of the fence. And that's a good side of the fence to be on, especially with college football. The issue that I still cannot wrap my head around was, like, one hand doesn't wash the other because they both don't wash the face. And when you're looking at Atlanta's situation, it wasn't like they had the knowledge that Kirk Cousins was going to be a bad quarterback for them. They just signed him.
Agreed.
Like it would be different. I don't know, man. Just a lot of money.
But see, my thinking was I didn't know Kirk Cousins was going to have a subpar season. What I believe, though, is he wasn't going to be their quarterback of the future.
So funny, Cottrell said this. This is, somebody, Mike the Miz, was just talking about his Cleveland Browns the other day, and this is the exact scenario that he said. He said Travis Hunter at 2, and then the Browns trade up to 20, one in front of the Steelers to take Shedeur at 20, and to match Shedeur with Travis Hunter in Cleveland.
Oh, I love that. Hey, I'm with you, Cottrell. If they're that aggressive and they can make that happen, go Browns.
Be a great night for the Browns. Brett checks in and says Kirk didn't have much mobility before the Achilles injury. Not sure why the Falcons would invest so heavily in a post-Achilles Kirk. I would say he has the mobility of a statue, but that would be an insult to statues everywhere. Brett, I agree with you. I just think that you had someone in that front office that believed in Kirk Cousins. So, like, you either believe in Kirk Cousins and try to win with Kirk Cousins and draft someone to help win in that situation, or you draft the other way and you just draft Michael Penix and you don't waste $100 million. But that's too easy. So Cottrell said that's interesting. He just got off a boat. He didn't see it. You should look it up. It's exactly what you just said. But I actually almost thought you stole it from him. I'm kidding. But all right. So I do want to talk about this. We'll get back to the NFL draft in a minute, and then we're getting NBA playoffs. 9:15. It's about that time. More and more information continues to come out over the Shannon Sharp lawsuit. And we talked about this last night on Wire2Wire, and I just kind of would love your take on it. And I think you agree with us, Mo, in the sense that nobody's hands are clean in this scenario. I'll say this. I think Shannon Sharp is creepy. I think that any 55, 54, 55, 56-year-old that wants to date a 19-year-old and is in a relationship with a 19-year-old, especially, you can hear the adolescence in that girl's voice. It's so crazy to me. But I think that's creepy. I think she 100% trapped him and set him up. And I think that lawyer is a scummy piece of shit. Like, I can, all three of those things can be true. I think it's a setup. I think he's creepy. I think the lawyer's a scumbag and literally just hunts for situations like this. I'll pause. Let me give you your unfiltered take in your opinion.
I think you probably hit it on the nail. I don't think there's anyone in this situation that has clean hands. Now, on the Shannon Sharp side of it, I cringe because I think it's kind of cringe. But let me just say this though. There's a lot of guys his age that would date women that young. There's some guys older than him that would date women that young. That's not my bag, but there are guys that's their bag. And there are some guys that see a guy 70 dating a 22-year-old and go, that a boy, right? There are people that think that way. So Shannon Sharp being creepy, that's not a crime. That's just being creepy. So, if the worst thing he's done is he's guilty of being a little bit ick, that's not a crime. There's a lot of people that are icky. My problem with Shannon Sharp is you would think if you watch him on ESPN, when you watch him on his own podcast, when you watch him late at night with Chad Johnson, that Shannon Sharp has common sense, that he's smarter than that. It seems to me that this young woman, whether she sounds like an adolescent or not, she was smart enough to have a plan. She was smart enough to pull him into a relationship. And at least from what I'm hearing, it seems like one of these relationships where they role play, where he was the dominant and she was the submissive, or whatever it was, whatever your thing is on that. What I don't understand is he didn't see any red flags that this 19-year-old looked at him and go, "You're the guy of my dreams. I'm really into you." Like, she probably doesn't even know anything about sports, but she saw him, knew who he was from that, and targeted him, and he went with it. You got to be smarter than that, bro. You're sitting on a ton of money. You're looking to make even more money, hundreds of millions of dollars. You're at the worldwide leader. You're getting ready to blow up. Everything is in your favor, and you fall into this. Like, she can only put out the honeypot trap. If you fall for it, that's on you. Well, I went back and I didn't get to watch the live Wire2Wire with you and Shao, but I watched the show later. And at the time when you guys were talking, I was like, right, why would you risk everything? Why would you do that? You have to be smarter than that. You have to have people around you go like, yo, Shay, not a good idea. Like be smarter than that. I don't care if you like younger women. Be smarter in your personal life. The fact that they came to him at some point and said, hey, for $10 million, we can make this all go away. I know that's getting shook down, but in hindsight, you should have took the $10 million deal. You should have took the 10 and signed it and had NDAs and all that, because where it's at now with some of these tapes being released, it not only looks like he dates younger women, he seems like he's a little beyond creepy. That tape where they're going back and forth and he's talking about choking her and she's like, don't do it. And he's like, you don't have a choice in the matter. Like, dude, that is horrible. You work for ESPN. Now, ESPN might have looked the other way, but not Disney. That's the thing. And being in partnership with Disney, I don't see how Shannon Sharp survives this.
So the one thing I want to, and I just looked it up. I wanted to make sure I was not wrong here. They didn't offer him $10 million to settle. He offered them $10 million to settle.
Well, that's even worse.
That's a big difference.
That's 10 times worse.
That's like him admitting guilt and be like, here's $10 million. Like his lawyer called it a calculated risk to get it to go away.
That's horrible. That his lawyer was smart. He was like, because Shannon, if they turn you down, bro, it's on. And clearly they turned him down. So the fact that you made that offer, that you conceded, I'll give you $10 million, that is admitting you did something a little beyond the board, right?
100%.
And that's a horrible look, because now it's going to cost him maybe more, not to mention it's going to dent his career in a way he might not recover from.
He also said Shannon Sharp's lawyer said the reason that they didn't do it, like they wanted to pay $10 million, is the evidence paints a clear picture, but it's not a picture in which Shannon wanted shown to the national media. So like his response to the offer of $10 million is, well, we just didn't want this to be public persona. Like, I didn't do anything wrong, but when all this stuff goes out there, it's going to look really bad. So I'd rather get rid of it for $10 million.
That part I totally understand, because clearly he's a kinky dude, right? He's into some extra stuff. And you don't want people to know that much about you. That's way too much personal stuff. And people are going to look at you in a completely different way. And women are fans of sports as well, too. You don't think they look at him creepily? Like, he works with Molly every day. She doesn't see this stuff and look at him in a different light. Like, this has to impact him across the board. I'm not saying he's committed a crime. I am saying, though, he's a little bit beyond the gray area. And he's in a situation, to me, where he can't win. There's no – now, look, the lawyer for the young lady, Busby, is a scumbag. Let's agree on that. He's a sleaze. He's the ultimate ambulance chaser. But that's just being what he is. And Shannon Sharp has put himself right in that position. And I don't know how you get out of this without having your career severely lessened or worsened. Like, if he can skate out of this and still be on ESPN, then maybe he's a bigger star than I thought. I don't think he gets out of that.
He won't be on ESPN, but I think his podcast will be fine. I think Club Shay Shay, his YouTube channel, everyone thinks that's going to – I think more people are going to want to listen to him to see what he has to say. Here's what I'll say, and there's one thing about me that I will toot my own horn here. I have a great judge of character. My perceptiveness level is very high. I know that. I'm very good at that. I'm telling you right now, you can listen to Club Shay Shay, you can listen to Shannon Sharp, and believe 100% that he's a creepy dude. Just the way he speaks about women. You didn't even have to go far back. Just go watch the episode they were talking about Bianca Belair.
I saw it.
It's weird. It's a little weird. And like, I get it. She's a beautiful woman. Just the way, man, and maybe this is me, and I'll end here. The way some men sexualize women in a sense where they're just on TV over the top ogling and like that person, like Bianca Belair might be the most talented female wrestler we have ever watched. Is she beautiful?
Agreed.
Absolutely. But she's also a standout gymnast from Tennessee, from Knoxville. Like, she is incredible at what she does. And the ogling is just a lot, right? And like, I'll say to you, I'm a huge Jade Cargill fan. I love the way she moves. Like, I love, like, you know, her strength, but it never gets to the point like, oh, like you can hear like I don't know, man, the part where it goes past she's beautiful to like, she's not a cocktail waitress. Like, I don't like.
And even cocktail waitresses deserve respect. No, I'm with you on that, because I think that on Club Shay Shay, and what's the other show with him and Chad Johnson? Is it I forgot what they do, what the name of it is called. It's the Late Show or something like that. But yeah, I guess my point is, they seem to cross that line all the time. Like, I guess on Club Shay Shay, you can get away with that because he seems to have guys on the show with him who are kind of on the same level. So they don't just say she's beautiful. They'll say she's gorgeous, and then they'll pause and they'll look at each other and they'll be like, man, if it was me, like, and they cross a line. You're right. I think that won't play at ESPN, but you're right. He's going to be fine on YouTube more because there are tons of guys that are like-minded. They're going to tune in and go, Shannon, I don't see what you did wrong, right? That you're going to get that, but he's not going to survive at ESPN.
All right. Well, that's all we're going to say about that. I'm sure as more information comes out, we'll talk about it more. It's called Nightcap. Thank you for the call out, Carmike. That's perfect. I just wanted your opinion. I wanted everyone's opinion. And like, trust me, man, I'm super like, I'll tell you this. William messaged me Monday and goes, how would you cover this? I'm like, I don't have enough information to cover it yet. I want to listen to it more. I want to read a little bit more before I put and Wednesday was that day. Wednesday afternoon, I heard enough. And I'm like, this is enough in the court of public opinion. He's guilty to me. Not guilty of what she's saying he's guilty of. I felt like if he did what she said, she should be pursuing criminal charges.
Agreed.
Not a lawsuit, but that's my opinion. All right. Back to the NBA. So I don't think anything could have went worse last night for the Golden State Warriors. I don't. I think it was a very, very, Jimmy Butler got rolled up underneath. Now, granted, his tailbone. Hopefully, he's fine. Hopefully, an MRI. But they immediately ruled him out. I hated how quickly they ruled him out from that game. Pods was sick. He ended up coming back and playing, but like he was questionable to play in the game. It felt like that no time did the Rockets just take over the game. But I will say this: the way Jalen Green shot the ball yesterday, he won't shoot that way the rest of this. There's not going to be another 38-point Jalen Green game. The series travels back to Golden State. Assuming Jimmy Butler's health, what do you see? What do you make of last night? Was it just a really bad night for the Warriors with Jimmy getting hurt and, Pods being sick and like just a lineups that Steve Kerr had no idea that he would be playing last night? Or is this a sign that the Rockets can make a comeback in the series?
No, it was what you said. It was a tsunami of bad things that could go wrong for Golden State. I've been on the record many times telling people that Jalen Green is vastly overrated and that if he's your best player, your ceiling is to get to the playoffs and lose in the playoffs. I'm with you. Him having 38 points last night, he hit a lot of crazy contested jump shots. That's not who he is. More times than not, instead of going 13 for 25, he'll go 5 for 25. That's closer to who he is. He doesn't. You shoot 40% on the year because that's who you are. You shoot under the league minimum from 3 because that's who you are. They don't have enough shooting to win a series. And I thought coming into this series, the Warriors would sweep them outright. And had Jimmy Butler not gotten injured, even with Pods not being 100%, I still think the Warriors would have won that game. Tari Eason was 4 from 6 from 3. He's a horrible three-point shooter. He was 4 for 6. So when these anomaly moments happen, it was one of them things where everything just went right. Like Steph didn't shoot the ball badly, but he didn't shoot great. And he's normally better with the basketball in his hands. He had 6 turnovers. He's not going to do that again. So I just think if Jimmy Butler is able to rejoin the series, if he's at 90%, I think going back to Golden State, the Warriors, who are the better team, are going to win both games in Golden State, and then they'll close them out in Houston. Look, Houston has a lot of athletes, and I don't want to water down what Coach Udoka has done with them this year because they have had a great season, but they have a lot of guys that are like the same guy. Like I love Thompson, and I love what he could be, but he and Tari Eason, they're the same guy. The Smith kid, they're the same guy. Dylan Brooks is the same guy, just an older version of that guy. That what they don't have is they don't have shooters and they don't have a closer. I think Golden State should only fear them if Jimmy Butler's not going to play. That's the only way this becomes a series. If Jimmy Butler says, if they say he's not playing in game 4 or game 3, I'm sorry, then the Rockets have a chance to make this a series. I still think Golden State wins. It just becomes a harder task. Even without Jimmy Butler, by the way, I still think the Warriors will win this game or win this series. But I think if they have Jimmy Butler, they won't lose another game in this series.
I agree with you. I'll say this: a guy that had a DNP coach's decision should not have the second most shots on your team in game 2. Like I don't know how that like happens. I don't know like in what world that makes the most sense. Like Jonathan Kuminga did not play in game 1, coach's decision, and had the second most shots on the Warriors yesterday. Like what? I just it didn't. A lot of things did not go well for the Warriors yesterday, and I think that'll change. I guess a quick. How's your temperature? Celtics, Magic, anything changed there? Or are we looking at like they won last night by 9 without Jason Tatum? I mean, I felt like Orlando tried to keep that game close. Does Orlando steal game 3 in Orlando? Like, do we think they can get a game? I don't think that they're in any real jeopardy.
I don't think the Celtics are in jeopardy either. I do think Orlando can get at least one game at home. They can. But it has to be game 3. If you lose game 3 and you're down 3-0, you're too demoralized. They'll just get swept. What I got out of last night was what we already knew. Paolo Banchero's sensational. He's a monster. He's a monster. Wagner's a good sidekick to him. The problem with Orlando is you've got those terrific bookend forwards, and you don't have much else offensively. They're a terrific defensive team, but they just don't have enough firepower on the offensive end. Like KCP has been tremendous for them as a defender. He's been a horrible shooter all season long, and it reared his head again. I think he made one shot all night. Like, if you can't give Banchero some relief, then he's gonna see double and triple teams. Like, they've got to go out in the offseason and get somebody who can create for himself and get buckets, and they don't have that right now on that roster.
And then the last game from last night, the Miami Heat played the Cleveland Cavaliers. It to me felt like every single thing that could go the Miami Heat's way went the Miami Heat's way, and they still lost the game by 9 points. Tyler Hero had 33 points on over 60% from the floor. Davion Mitchell had his best offensive showing since Baylor. Hayward Highsmith could not miss a 3-ball. Like, he was 5 for 6 from 3 last night. Like, I felt like everything went Miami's way, and they still couldn't beat Cleveland. I think Cleveland's just got so much depth between Mobley, Garland, Mitchell, like Jared Allen, what he does in the post. DeAndre Hunter off the bench, who's been such a great pickup for them. This fight's fixed.
Yeah, I think this is a sweep. I don't even think Miami gets a game at home. Like, I watched that game too, and I just came away going, that's their best punch. That's as good as Miami can play offensively, and it still wasn't good enough. And I watched the game, and Cleveland didn't play horrible, but they didn't play their A game, and they still came away with a win. I don't think any other game is going to be that close in this series. I think this series is done.
I want to ask you a funny question. Would you say Miami basketball fans are true, dedicated basketball fans?
Not really.
Would you say LA basketball fans are like kind of fair weather-ish? LA, it's beautiful. If the Lakers are doing well, if the Clippers are doing well, I'll show up. But, would you say that they're a little fair weatherish?
I think the majority of them are. I would say that. And they've been spoiled because they've had more success than most people can ever imagine with the franchise. But, yeah, I think they're very fair weather.
So I have a point to make here. I love looking at this. Tickets as low as. This is my indicator of where the fan base is. Like, how much demand is there for your ticket, right? So we'll play a game. What do you think the cheapest ticket to get in the house is at Detroit for Knicks Pistons?
At Detroit for Knicks
Nosebleeds,
Pistons?
the cheapest ticket in the house.
The nosebleeds in Detroit? I don't know, $20?
$139.
For the nosebleeds? Wow.
The cheapest ticket.
That's crazy.
Right? Okay.
That is impressive.
In LA, Denver plays LA. This has been a great series. What do you think the cheapest ticket in the house is in LA?
For a Clippers game, and they're going to be in
not
LA?
Lakers, Clippers. Yep, you got it. You nailed it.
The cheapest ticket, I don't know, $80.
You're right on point. It's $70. I'll go one step further. Lakers at Minnesota. What do you think the cheapest ticket in the house is? In Minnesota, LeBron, Luka, Ant Edwards, cheapest ticket in the house.
A couple of $100.
$187.
Okay.
I say all this to ask you, what do you think the cheapest ticket in the house is to see Oklahoma City at Memphis?
Oklahoma City at Memphis, I don't know, $25.
$8.
Wow, I went too high.
You can go see a playoff basketball game for $8.
That's insane. But that also tells you where the fan base is. You're right.
When I seen that, I was blown away. And that's all I have to say about the Oklahoma City Memphis series. Their own fan base, their own team does not believe. And we talked about Ja Morant yesterday. We don't need to get into this again. But the point is, yeah, no one cares. So if you don't care, we won't care.
That's crazy.
We're not going to cover it.
$8.
$8.
I can't get over because we are talking about playoff games. That's crazy.
All right. So Knicks Pistons, 7:00. I'll be having that on the other TV as I'm doing the draft watch along because I am in love with that series. Outside of the Clippers Nuggets, it's my favorite series to watch. Clippers Nuggets has been my favorite. It's a 1-point difference in 2 games total. It's been incredible basketball. It's been mistakes by Russell Westbrook. It's been hustle plays by Russell Westbrook, but it's been fun basketball to watch. But Knicks Pistons has been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Knicks Pistons, I really look. I picked the Knicks and I went with the experience, even though I knew Detroit was a dangerous team because I thought Cade Cunningham could still be the best player in this series, or Cade Cunningham could at least match what Brunson does. Because if you watch the Knicks play, it's not complicated. They're very Jalen Brunson centric. He's going to get up 25 or more shots. Oftentimes the other guys are just watching him play. I still think this is a 7-game series, but I think that the Knicks must win this next game. They have to, because if they let Detroit gain control of the series, this is already a cocky young team, which I love about them and what Bickerstaff has done with the culture. I really do think Detroit looks at New York and believes they can beat them. I think they believe they're the better team. So I think game 3 is essential to who gains control of the series. I still think it's a 7-game series, but I think both teams come out with their Sunday punch.
I agree with you. I still think, even though I think it's very telling that the spread is Knicks -1.5. Maybe it's me. I just look at these starting lineups, and if I put them on a wall, I would take 5 Knicks players before I took the 3rd Piston. Like, the talent just has to be too much. I understand that they're not playing well together. I understand JB Bickerstaff's doing a great job coaching Detroit, and Tom Thibodeau's on the hot seats in New York. But when I look at that Knicks team, I go, well, let's say Cade's the best player in the series. Let's just say that. I'm fine with that. You have Brunson, Cat, OG, Mikal, and then Josh Hart. And I think that those 5 players are better than the 3rd best player on Detroit. And it's like one of those things where, like, I know Cade's good. I understand that. And by the way, just to be clear, just so we're all on the same page, I'd probably put Jaden Ivey as the 2nd best player on the Detroit Pistons. But, in the playoffs right now, it's been Tobias Harris. But, like, I don't think Tobias Harris is better than Josh Hart. I don't think Malik Beasley is better than Josh Hart. So what I mean by that, I say, okay, I got Cade, and then I have Jaden Ivey mixed into a group of 5 Knicks players, and then I have Tobias Harris and Malik Beasley. I just think the talent has to matter.
I agree with what you're saying about the talent, but that always takes us into another conversation.
Yeah.
The Knicks are the more talented team, but how that talent is applied is what matters. Cat Cat can't let Tobias Harris guard him, and yet Tobias Harris is having no problem guarding Cat. He's out rebounding Cat. If Tobias Harris is allowed to guard Cat with no help, the Knicks can't win this series. And if Tobias Harris, who I've always been kind of hard on as a player, even though I shouldn't have been, it's not his fault the Sixers gave him that kind of money. But if he's going to give you 15 and 15 and lock Cat down, the Knicks are in trouble. I'm with you. Bridges and OG are better than the Pistons forwards. They should be, but they haven't been. And Josh Hart, who is kind of a Swiss Army knife, yes, I agree. I would take him before you get to the third Pistons player, but he hasn't played well either. So I get it that they're more talented, but if they don't apply it, they're going to lose this series. Like, Bickerstaff has done something really smart. He said, I'm not going to put Jalen Duren on Cat because Cat has a quickness advantage and we don't want Duren playing in space. He put Tobias Harris on him, which negates the quickness advantage. And Cat has got to realize, like, if I can't blow by somebody, I need to get in the post and wear Tobias Harris out. I'm bigger, I'm stronger. That's where I need to be. But he never made that adjustment. And the thing about Cat that I've always been critical of, if you're physical with him, if you're aggressive with him, more times than not, he'll quit.
Listen, I say this all the time about Cat. He's a cat. He's not a dog. And I don't mean to say that. He's not a dog. He lacks a dog. He's a cat. He's skittish. You put your hands on him, he'll back away.
Brunson's a dog.
I agree.
I think when OG's on, OG's a dog. Josh Hart is a dog. But they have to play better than what they've played. I think what Bickerstaff has done by doing cross matchups is totally confused the Knicks. And Thibodeau is being outcoached. You can't have the more talented team and not take advantage of all of Detroit's weaknesses. Look, Detroit made a big improvement. They were almost last in total defense last year. They're middle of the road this year, which is a big upgrade, but it's still a middle of the road defense. You're not supposed to let them lock you down across the board. Your 3 forward or your 5, 4, and 3, they can't go an entire basketball game without getting to a foul line. That's unheard of. None of them took free throw attempts, which means you're not playing aggressive. They got to wake up or they're going to lose this series.
Last series to talk about today, and then I might get a little bit frisky with you. But last series to talk about today, the Nuggets, Clippers, they're tonight. Clippers are a 5.5 point favorite at home. I'm telling you right now, I don't care, 5.5. I would take the plus 5.5 because this series has been a back and forth war. And I don't care how bad Jamal Murray looks in the regular season. As soon as the postseason comes, Jamal Murray remembers how to play basketball. Do you know they have a stat that the biggest difference between their regular season numbers and postseason numbers, you know who's number one in the NBA in that?
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray. You know who's number 2? Nikola Jokic. So, like, when you look at, like, those guys step up in that moment. Christian Braun has really developed for the Denver Nuggets. And then you have Russell Westbrook, who sometimes is the absolute glue, is sometimes the absolute hustle. He's the fire that team needs. And then sometimes he makes Russell Westbrook plays. I don't know how to explain it. But Kawhi Leonard looked like 2019 Kawhi Leonard, Toronto Kawhi Leonard in game 2. Will we get more of that? Is this a James Harden night? Norman the Floorman going off? Is Zubac going to continue to play at such an efficient rate? Look, I'll tell you right now, if the Clippers walked in this series and said the differential between Jokic and Zubac would be what it was through 2 games, I would tell you Clippers in 5. Like Jokic is obviously outplaying Zubac, but it's not the absolute mismatch you thought it would be going into the series. So I say all this to ask you your thoughts.
So I think this is going to be a 7-game series, and I hope we get whatever we got the last 2 games, the first 2 games with the 1 possession games, the back and forth. These 2 teams, they cancel each other out. You've got the greatness of Jokic and Jamal Murray as a tandem. Christian Braun has been terrific. He's actually been a better version of KCP. The only problem is they didn't bring anybody to replace Christian Braun coming off the bench. They never did that.
Yeah.
Denver's going to have to find a way to get some kind of production out of their bench. Either that or their starters as a whole have to be more productive. You can't have Michael Porter Jr. one game go 4 for 17, and then the next game he's 8 for 10. Like, he's got to be more consistent. They needed more consistency from him. I think the problem for Porter Jr. is because he never added anything to his game. He's just a big 6'9" catch and shoot guy. There's nothing else to his game. He can't put the ball on the floor, so he's limited. I think the Clippers win tonight, but by no means do I think the series is over. I think this is going to be another close game. I'm looking for a big game from Norman Powell because he's yet to have a big game in this series. This is the Norman Powell game where he goes for 25 or 30.
I felt like his presence was felt in game 2, though, defensively.
He was really good defensively, and he made a big shot late in the game on that 3 that he made from the Kawhi pass. Look, I think these two teams match up as well as the Knicks and Pistons match up. The advantage, though, is on the wings, the Clippers have 3 guys that can create and get their own shots. On the wings, the Nuggets have 1 guy. It's Jamal Murray.
I want to play. You're one of the most knowledgeable, and this is not a trick, right? This is not. I promise you, no one at home is going to say that Mo doesn't know basketball if he doesn't know this answer. It's a very tough one. You watch all these basketball games, and you're a huge NBA guy. NBA 24/7, 365. Outside of Russell Westbrook, can you name the 3 players that had the most bench minutes for the Nuggets in game 2?
The most bench minutes?
Yeah, so the most minutes off the bench. Like, their starters, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jokic, Murray, and Braun. They played a good amount of minutes, obviously. Russell Westbrook is your 6th man. He played a good amount of minutes. There's 3 other guys that got minutes in that game. 3 other guys. That's it. They played 8 people, and between the 3 of them, they played a total of 26 minutes.
Is the kid's name Struthers, or I don't remember his name?
You're talking about Julian Strawler?
Yeah, that's it.
He did not play in game 2.
Wow.
I know Julian Strawler a ton. He's a Gonzaga kid. I've been a fan of him for a while.
And what about DeAndre Jordan?
He played 5 minutes. He recorded 1 rebound.
Well, there you go. Contributing. That's funny. He probably had a good plus minus, right?
He was -3.
No. Well. But yeah, I can't think of the 3rd guy. They don't go deep into the well.
Yeah, so it's Peyton Watson,
Texas,
and Jalen Pickett.
I've never heard of him.
That was their bench. It was Peyton Watson, DeAndre Jordan, and Jalen Pickett. I thought it was Kenny Pickett's brother. I had to look him up. I'm like, who is this guy? Is he white? He's not white. It's not Kenny Pickett's brother.
That's why Calvin Booth got fired.
It's insane to me. Like, their team has Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon. By the way, I love the way Aaron Gordon plays basketball. I'll take an Aaron Gordon on my team as the 4th best player any day of the week. The problem is, on that team, he's asked to be more than that. But that's okay. Michael Porter Jr., guy can shoot the lights out, but has no idea what a pass means. I don't think he knows what, like, assist even looks like. But, like, you look at that team and you're like, well, I don't want to play them in a 1-quarter game because their starters are really good. But when they get tired a little bit, we're probably going to catch up.
And it shows every time the Joker goes to the bench, the offense just it goes stagnant. They depend so much on what Murray does. Look, the only reason this is going to be a 7-game series, it's funny, is because of the greatness of Joker and Murray offensively. They make it that good. Like, when all you have is you go 5 or 6 guys deep and you're still able to be in a 7-game series, that speaks to the greatness of your 2 best players. It does.
Absolutely correct. Mo, I feel like this is very good for Lakers fans, right? The Lakers have been off. They're off all week. They play Friday. They're off again tonight. They play Tuesday, Friday. They get the double dip for the travel day. They're playing at Minnesota. I would not be, because we're not going to have a show tomorrow. Brett's he's at the draft. It is what it is. It's good. We're on Roku, so it's fine. So I would love your preview of Lakers Timberwolves in Minnesota. 3.5 point spread. And I know you've watched every ounce of this basketball between these two teams, but like the part to me that I'm confused of, and maybe a really good basketball guy like you can help me understand. Why isn't Anthony Edwards averaging 35 points a game in the series?
You just brought it up. I'm glad you brought that up. It's a 1-1 series, and Anthony Edwards is averaging, I believe, 22 or 23 points a game.
But I'm trying to figure out why. There's no perimeter defender on the Lakers. There's zero.
There isn't, but if you watch how the Lakers are defending him, they hedge everything. So they're doubling him without actually doubling him to try to confuse him. The problem is when you look at Minnesota's starting five, it's easy to double him, right? Because Jaden McDaniels is not going to have that out-of-body game that he had in game one. He looked more like the normal Jaden McDaniels, who's not a shooter. Rudy Gobert is not an offensive player. Sometimes you're playing offense 4 against 5 because if he's not rim running, you don't care. If he comes out in the perimeter to set a pick, you're gonna go over. You're not afraid of Rudy Gobert. You don't worry about him. I think that being said, this game 3, it has to be the Anthony Edwards 40 or more game. They need Anthony Edwards. I say he's got to shoot 25 or more shots. And he's got to attack the basket. If Anthony Edwards isn't getting to the foul line, shooting 8 to 10 free throws a game, then shame on him. You are right. Even if they're doubling him, if he attacks and puts his head down, no one can stay in front of him. Anthony Edwards has to make a concerted effort. I'm going to keep the Lakers defenders on their heels. I'm going to live at the free throw line if they pressure me. He can't just keep settling for deep threes. I get it. He has range. He shoots the three well, but he doesn't shoot the three like Steph Curry. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like every time he raises up from 3, you're like, well, that's a bucket. He doesn't shoot it that well. He needs to play to his strengths. And one of his biggest strengths is his ability to get to the free throw line. He's got to be more active. He's got to be more aggressive. And I think his teammates feed off of him. When Anthony Edwards is in attack mode, I think that rubs off on somebody like Jaden McDaniels. That rubs off on Naz Reid and all the others. Like, I think Mike Conley, who's been a good player his whole career, but I think this last game 2, he had a donut. He didn't do anything. You can't be on the floor 18 minutes and have donuts across the board. Look, Anthony Edwards has to play better, but his teammates have to step up too.
All right, so this is the part, and I agree with you 100%. I think it's going to be a fun series. We'll ask, what's Ben Simmons doing tonight? Probably going to play 8 minutes.
And not shoot the ball one time.
All right, so I have a thing that I wanted to do for you. This is a fun exercise, okay? We have 5 minutes to do it. I think it'll be fun. It's an NBA exercise. You get to pick one current NBA head coach, one current NBA superstar, and this would be right now. So, like, if you pick LeBron, you're getting 40-year-old LeBron. Okay. And then you get to pick one NBA all-timer, not named Michael Jordan.
Okay.
That's all you get. And you have to build your team around those 3 people. So I'll start here. So
the head coach, the current player, and the great player from the past.
Current head coach right now, not Popovich right. With the health issues. Gotcha. You can't go, I want Popovich from 05. No, you can't have that. Gotcha. Right now, current player right now, and then an all-time player. And the exercise, I think it's supposed to be like, don't take like a top 10 NBA player. Like that's why I said not Michael Jordan, but like, I don't want you to say you can't take Kobe or whatever, but the point being is it's supposed to be like a good player, not a top 10 player.
Okay.
I'm screwing this up, but let's start here. Who is the NBA coach that you would take to coach your basketball team? Current NBA coach. I'll give you mine afterwards. I have all 3 for you.
I'm going to take Steve Kerr.
Okay. I'm going to take Ime Udoka.
Okay.
I love the way, and I love his comment the other night. They said chippy series. That benefits us. We would love that. We love the dirty, like not dirty play, the rough, tough play. That's one. Current superstar at their current level.
I'll take Anthony Edwards.
Okay, so I will take Nikola Jokic. I still think he's at an absolute prime level, and I think he's just, no matter what you throw against him, he's proof of that. Like, you can't. And then all-time player to build around Steve Kerr and Anthony Edwards.
I'll take Scottie Pippen.
Okay, so you did exactly what the exercise was supposed to do. It's supposed to be a superstar paired with like a Hall of Fame role player, not role player, but like a complementary player. The player you're supposed to build it around is supposed to be the current player. You're supposed to give him someone from in the past that would mesh well with him.
Right.
So for me, I picked one of my all-time favorites, and I think he'd match up really well with Nikola Jokic, and that's Reggie Miller.
You screwed me. I really thought you were going to pick Larry Bird, but it's cool. I mean, Reggie's great, but I thought you were going to go with Bird because I know you're big on Larry Bird and how great a player he was.
So Bird's peak, and this is something I talk about all the time. I'm not big on Larry Bird. I'm not. I'm not a huge, like the hick from French Lick. But I'll say this. There are three things, and two of them are positive and one of them is negative, that often get misconstrued about Larry Bird. And you'll correct me if I say any of these things wrong. I think people think he was like this knockdown three-point shooter. He didn't shoot many threes. Like, let's stop that. Like, correct. He shot him in the NBA three-point contest, but if you threw him in today's NBA three-point contest, he would not make it out of the first round. Like, versus the other guys that are in it, like Steph and all those guys, much better shooters from three. That's one. That's the negative. Like, people think he's an all-time. Two, people think that Larry Bird was not athletic or not a good defender because he was a white guy. That is an absolute false statement. He had an incredible nose for the ball. He was way more athletic than he looked. And Larry Bird was incredible with the basketball. And then the third mistake, and this is a mistake to me, over their career, Magic had a longer peak. But peak for peak, like top of Larry's game, top of Magic's game, Larry was the better basketball player. But You'll never hear a list that goes Larry and then Magic unless the guy's from Boston. Because the peak was longer for Magic. Like, every time you hear a top 10 list, and it's funny, as the years go by, it almost feels like they get distanced more. Like the aura of Magic, it's built up. Like, some people have him 4. I think you have him 4. You have him 4, right?
Either 4 or 5. Okay.
So some people have him 4. I have him 6, and that's okay. Like, me and you see Magic and Kobe differently. I think we flipped them. I'm almost sure you have Kobe 6, but that's not for here nor there. And then people have Bird 8, 9.
I don't have them that far down.
To think there's that gap, it's frustrating. So
I agree.
I just like to. There are 3 things about Larry that I always like to talk to people about. Like,
so,
yeah.
No, I agree. I think I agree with everything you said. I believe that I think I have Magic 4 or 5, and Larry, and I got Larry. I think Kobe 6 and Larry 7. But you're right. I think Magic and Larry, wherever you want to rank them, they should be right next to each other. In my opinion, they should be lockstep with each other.
That's exactly what I have. I think I have Larry 6 and Bird, or Larry 6 and Magic 7. I do
right.
That. And by the way, just to be clear, if you pressed me, I could argue Magic over Larry. I do it so people can be like, "What? You have Bird over Magic?" And then I get into my whole spiel I just got into, the exact same thing. Right. It's the same thing I say when I talk to people about boxing. I say Mike Tyson's the most overrated boxer of all time. You're like, what? I mean, he is, but
no, you're in my wheelhouse. We're 100% on the same page with Mike Tyson. The only thing I would say about the Larry Bird thing with the 3-point shooting, yeah, he didn't take a lot of threes, but I would disagree that if he was in a 3-point shootout in this era that he wouldn't win. No, I think he still would win. Paul Pierce won a 3-point shoot. He's an NBA 3-point shooter, and I don't think he's a better shooter. They shoot more threes. Larry Bird, we're in the era now where guys take 13 threes a game. I think if Larry Bird, it was the preferred weapon. It wasn't. That he played in an era where it was inside out. So I think as a shooter, and more importantly as a competitor, when Larry Bird steps up and he's in there and you're shooting against him at that All-Star game when the lights are on, I think he becomes better.
Agreed. we got to wrap up. It's 10 o'clock. I feel like the time flies when we talk, Mo. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Make sure you tune into our live draft coverage tonight on Wire2Wire Network. Mo, close us out.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you check out all the great content we have at Wire2Wire Network. Wire2Wire Network, we appreciate you.